And it should say Commission on the Environment.
Is this? I'll figure it out.
The Ides of March today, I just realized.
I can put the link in the chat.
Yeah, I don't know if I accidentally deleted it. I remember seeing it come through. All I see is the invitation to the Zoom link right now, and that doesn't have the...
Cliff, it came across March 12th at 7:50 a.m. on my email. If that helps you ferret it out.
Let's see.
I just pasted it into the chat, so if that helps you.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Hi, Jessica.
Our presenter has arrived. One of our presenters.
We have our first presenter. Such a full agenda tonight. And there's Janine. And Councilmember Babcock is on. So we have a full group, I believe. We'll just wait till we know that we're going live and we'll be ready for the roll call.
Kathy, you guys are all set. You're live now.
Thank you, Emily.
All right. Thank you, Emily. Welcome, everybody, to Commission on the Environment meeting, March 15th, the Ides of March. We'll get rolling here. I will look off to the side probably a fair bit because I have a couple screens up to help me keep track of where I'm at in the process. We'll start with roll call, which I will kick off. This is Tom Alwyn, attending from East Lansing in Ingham County. And then I will ask folks to follow suit with a similar announcement. So Cheryl.
Cheryl Schmidt, East Lansing, Michigan, Ingham County.
Thank you. Cliff.
Cliff Walls, Ingham County, East Lansing.
Excellent. Just what was that?
I said the other way around. I said Ingham County first.
Flipping it around on us. Nice. Jessica.
Jessica Crawford, West Olive in Ottawa County.
Thank you. Anne. Oh, you're muted. All right. I can see that you're here, but we can't hear that you're here. All right. Oh, there we go. I think we got you.
Ann Earhart, East Lansing, Michigan, Clinton County.
Thank you. Janine.
Janine Camilleri, East Lansing, Ingham County.
Thanks, Janine. Chris.
Chris Kahn, East Lansing, Ingham County.
Thank you. And Michael.
Michael Townley, East Lansing, Ingham County.
Thank you. And we have our newest commissioner who's joining us for the first time today. Introduce Cindy Roper. Cindy.
Hi, Cindy Roper, East Lansing, Michigan, and Ingham County.
Thank you. Cindy, I apologize that we are not meeting in person and we have not gotten to meet you in person. It's a little unfortunate, very unfortunate, and a little weird, I have to say, but welcome to the commission. I'm thinking we have a pretty full agenda, so maybe we won't go through. Normally in a meeting, we kind of introduce ourselves, where we live, how long we've been in the town, maybe what we do, that kind of a thing. So in lieu of that, I think if everyone wants to take some time throughout the meeting to just put a little blurb into the chat, we can kind of introduce ourselves that way while the meeting is going on. And that way we can kind of get a feel for, who you are, and you can get a feel for who all of we are. I don't know. And then eventually we will meet in person, I hope. And then we can do something a little more official. But if folks want to put some stuff down in the chat about themselves, that would be appreciated. So we next move on to approval of today's agenda. Has everyone had a chance to check out our stacked and full agenda?
Chair Owen, I just want to make sure did we get everybody? I'm not sure if I caught Michael on the roll call, but maybe we did. Did we? Okay.
I think so.
All right. That was me then.
He was quiet, that's all.
I move we accept the agenda.
Second.
All right, all in favor, maybe, yeah, we all have our cameras on. Raise your hand. Or do we have to say aye? Are there official rules on that? No, we'll raise our hands. I see all hands approving. Any opposed? Nope, we can move on with the agenda. Thank you. Has everyone had a chance to look at the minutes from our past meeting? And does anyone have any additions, changes that need to be made that they noticed? Doesn't sound like it. So would someone like to move to approve the meeting minutes from last meeting?
I'll move to approve the minutes from last meeting.
Thank you. Come on, don't be shy. We need a second.
Second. I wasn't there. That's why I was holding back.
All right. Fair enough. Thanks, Cliff. All in favor, sign of hands if you got your camera on. Anybody opposed? I see no opposition. We can approve the minutes. Thank you. I just learned while we were waiting that I can see if we have non-panelists participating in the attendee portion, and it looks like we don't have any citizens. Is that right, Brad?
That's correct.
All right, so we can kind of move past the communications from citizens portion, which brings us to new business. And that is a presentation from Commissioner Crawford on recycling and organics survey, which I'm super excited about.
Yes, awesome. Yeah, so I prepared a little PowerPoint, and so I'm not sure, Brad, is that something that you share? Is that something I share? How does this work?
Yeah, so I'll get it pulled up
Okay.
and then you just tell me to click through the slides.
Sounds good.
Okay, give me 1 minute.
All right, then I guess we'll get started on this. So I guess the research project that Kathy and I have been working on over the past couple months is a community engaged research project that is working to help enhance resource recovery in the city of East Lansing. So we can go on to the next slide. And so the purpose of this is to kind of get some citizen input to help kind of understand, I guess, citizen satisfaction with some of the existing recycling services and kind of get a feel for, I guess, aspirations for what we, the city of East Lansing can do to make this, I guess, the services improved. And I guess kind of the impetus to get this work started, one was that I am at MSU, so I'm a graduate student in the community engagement program, for those of you that don't know. And kind of part of this, there's like a graduate certificate in community engagement. And so community engagement work is kind of the integration of using both scholarship and kind of real world issues and kind of pairing the two to try to figure out how we can use research to address some of these real world issues that are kind of happening in community-based organizations. And so kind of when I joined the Commission on the Environment, which I think was last October 2019, I don't know. It was a while ago, but kind of when I got started on that, I started talking with Kathy and I was like, hey, is there anything in particular that the city of East Lansing could, I guess, benefit from doing a research project on? And so we kind of bounced back on for some ideas, and we kind of both settled on, yeah, recycling is something that, you know, a lot of the city of East Lansing residents have expressed a lot of interest in, and this is something that the city has used research in on the past, and that they've kind of helped propel them forward. For some of the existing programs, like the polystyrene bin is one of the things that there was a research project a while back, and you know, a lot of citizens were like, hey, we want styrofoam recycling. And so after a series of events that kind of helped kind of be the catalyst for offering another material that was accepted. So Kathy and I are like, yep, this has been helpful in the past. So let's try to use it again in the future and see what we can come up with. So that's kind of what we did. Next slide. So pretty much what, I guess the method that we used is we created this survey to kind of gather some feedback. And, you know, it was collecting data in a pandemic. So we had a couple of obstacles, the main one being that we could only offer the surveys online. So we kind of realized that that in itself was a limitation, but we still felt that an online survey would be something that we could still get valuable feedback on. And so we kind of posted it through different means, like at the drop-off bins, at the drop-off center, we kind of had these little signs with a QR code so that people could scan it and pull up on the survey. We sent out kind of this blurb about it in the Curbside Journal. It was on the e-news dialogue, and then it was also on the city's website. And so in this survey, we kind of were mainly asking questions about the drop-off center, but there was also a little bit of questions that kind of related to some things about recycling in general, whether it be, you know, curbside or just how can the city improve, you know, the quality or quantity of recycling in the area. And then we also added a section about composting to kind of gauge whether or not citizens would be interested in that. And if so, kind of what program they would be interested in participating. And so since it was kind of, you know, a strange time to collect data, we left up the survey for quite a long time, which was from September 2020 all the way till January 2021. And during that time, we got almost 500 responses. So we did feel like we got a good size sample of people that were able to provide us some input that we could use to kind of, I guess, to get some good trends in the data going that we thought were, I guess, suitable for analysis. So next slide. So in this slide here, we can kind of see a comparison of demographics between the survey participants on the left-hand side and then the City of East Lansing's population, which is on the right-hand side. And one thing that we do notice is that our survey participants are heavily skewed towards the white population. So it's 91% in the survey participants when the City of East Lansing's estimated percentage is 72%. So there we see that we're definitely missing some racial demographics in the survey. And then we also see that the majority of the survey participants were female, and then also above the age of 65. And so to us, this indicated one of two things, potentially both. It could indicate that, you know, the survey itself was kind of, I guess, limited, had a misrepresentative sample, or it could also mean that recyclers themselves are not necessarily in these demographics. And so we're guessing that it's probably, I guess, probably a mixture of both, from a limited survey and then also, I guess, limited access to certain populations using recycling as well. And so then next slide. As far as the results, it turns out that the majority of the people that use the drop-off center are actually people who have curbside recycling. And I think most were actually from the City of East Lansing. And only 11% of people that took the survey did not have access to curbside recycling. And we suspect that this number represents the low number of people who don't have curbside recycling services that recycle, opposed to, you know, this low number meaning that, you know, people in apartments have recycling and that's why they don't come to the drop-off. So, you know, that kind of gave us some information in itself to, all right, what populations don't have access to recycling services. And so this to us was a big indicator that a lot of it is these multifamily housing complexes. And fortunately, though, the people that were regularly using the drop-off center were either highly satisfied or satisfied with the facility, but there were a couple of suggestions nonetheless. So next slide. Oh, and this is just kind of showing some of the materials that people commonly said that they used at the drop-off center. Not surprisingly, polystyrene is the biggest one because that is a component that is not actually offered in the curbside just because of, you know, limited ability to do so. And then also cardboard is another huge one that's offered at the that's used at the drop-off center as well, which is also not surprising because, you know, a lot of people who have overflow, it tends to be cardboard. And so that's where they're taking it from, you know, their house to the drop-off center. Interestingly, a lot of the less, I guess, recycled materials are some of the ones that were like the materials that are offered inside the Department of Public Works building. So like inside the building, they offer cell phone recycling, battery recycling, and then CFL bulbs. And so those were some of the lowest numbers. Granted, it might have also been because of COVID and these materials aren't necessarily accessible during this time, but also the results kind of indicated a lot of people were saying like, I had no idea that this was even a thing that was offered, you know, pre or post COVID, whatever. And so I think that kind of indicated to us like, well, people aren't necessarily aware of all the possibilities to recycle. And next slide. So like I said earlier, we kind of were asking people like, well, if you had, you know, the ideal recycling services in your town, what would you want it to look like? And a lot of people made some suggestions for curbside stuff because, you know, the majority of the people that we got responses for were curbside recyclers. And so a lot of people requested weekly pickups and to add a polystyrene to the curbside, but there are some limitations to being able to do that from a feasibility standpoint. So unfortunately, we're not sure how much we can do to move those suggestions forward. But as far as curbside goes, people also were looking for more recycling guidance, whether it be on, you know, exactly what can and can't be recycled, or kind of like what happens to my recyclable after I throw it in the bin, like where does it go and what does it turn into kind of stuff. And so people are also looking for some more educational content, which we did feel like that's something that we can definitely offer and would be happy to do so. As far as the drop off, people were really eager to get more materials added. Some of the top, I guess, contenders for materials were electronics, plastic film, and wood. So those were kind of the most commonly requested items. And then also people were more so at the drop-off wanted more guidance on the what to do and what not to do, especially when it comes to sorting. A lot of people weren't sure, you know, well, what's exactly the difference between box board and cardboard and that kind of stuff, and where do I put this, and is this acceptable kind of stuff. And so people did have a little bit more confusion as far as what can and can't be recycled at the drop-off center. So again, we felt like recycling guidance is something that we can for sure offer probably in the short term, whereas, you know, adding more material bins to the drop off is something that the city of East Lansing has already thought about. But again, there are several challenges that need to be understood and addressed before we can kind of make those kind of commitments. And luckily, that's why we have this type of commission to kind of think through some of those things and help move us forward. But just knowing that there is a demand from a community can really kind of be the push that we need to continue to explore some of these things and yeah, continue towards hopefully a zero waste type of community. But yeah, next slide. Oh, and then as far as composting, so in the survey, we kind of asked people like, hey, what is your interest in composting? And, you know, almost 80% of people said that they were very interested or interested in the city adopting kind of this citywide composting program. Most people said that they would prefer to participate in a curbside bag or cart pickup opposed to a drop-off site, but there was still, I think, like the interest in the curbside cart was like 35 or something. And then as far as drop off, it was like 25. So there was still like percent is what I'm talking about, 35% and 25%. And so there was some interest in both, but the curbside was definitely preferred. Out of the, almost 500 participants, less than 100 people said that they would not participate. And about half of those people said they wouldn't participate because they were already composting at home. And then the other half said that, they were just kind of unsure about storage, the mess and the smell of, housing compostable materials, and then just like fears of pests and that kind of thing, kind of, the common perceptions about like, why composting might be problematic. Those were expressed by some of those people. But we also asked participants if they would be willing to pay. And almost 70% said that they would be willing to pay anywhere between, less than 25 per year all the way to more than 75 per year. And so there was kind of this big range of people saying like, yeah, we're willing to pay some amount, but exactly what that amount would be, I'm guessing would probably fall somewhere in between that range as far as an average willingness to pay. But yeah, and there were obviously about 30% of people that would participate, but wouldn't be willing to pay if they did participate. What was interesting about these results was as far as priority ranking. So we asked people that, all right, on a scale 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest priority and 10 being the highest priority, how would you rank a composting program as far as like what you want the city to do next? And the average priority ranking was a 5.79. So, just above, the in between area. And we thought that that result was kind of interesting because, we have nearly 80% of people saying like, yeah, like, let's do this composting thing. But then when we get towards, the end and we ask them to rank it as a priority, they're just ranking it as a, yeah, maybe, like, it sounds okay. And so we were kind of thinking that potentially the reason for this kind of average-ish ranking was just because the survey did happen in times where, there was a big push for, social justice. And then also there's the COVID pandemic going on. And so right now people's minds are kind of prioritizing other things more highly. And so we're thinking that until some of those matters are, I guess, more addressed, this ranking is probably going to fall a little bit further down on people's list. It's not to say that it's not important, but it might be something that's more important later on as we move forward in, getting better towards some of the other matters that are of a little bit more importance to people right now. All right, and then next slide. I think this is the last one. Yes. So this all comes down to what does this mean for the city and how can we use this data to actually, I guess, move things forward to improving recycling and waste diversion services in the city. And so we kind of thought of things in both short term and long term. And the short term is mainly focusing on doing some of that education stuff. Kathy and I are actually working to start designing some signs for the drop-off center to actually post on the bins, and they're going to kind of look like the do's for putting in cardboard and the don'ts for putting in cardboard. So we're really excited to get started on that. So that's one thing that we're kind of getting the ball rolling on. And then the next thing that we're hoping to do in the short term is kind of integrate some of these, I guess, aspirations into the climate sustainability plan. And lucky for us, Kathy is going to talk about some of the updates that have been going on with that. And so that is going to start being and kind of at the forefront of our conversations again. So we thought that was kind of a good timing to make sure that we kind of keep this in our minds moving forward as we do, try to progress the city's sustainability initiatives. And then I guess as far as more long-term thinking, we're hoping one potential idea is to work on creating and delivering an outreach plan to maybe some of the underrepresented populations that weren't considered in our survey. I think first finding out, who has access to these programs and who doesn't, and understanding those barriers and potential opportunities to remove those barriers is going to be critical if we intend to make recycling more of an equitable service in our community, which the city is very, stands behind and is something that they are always striving for. And some of the other long-term suggestions would be to improve opportunities for some of the harder to recycle items, like, the electronics, plastic film, household goods, all those kind of ones that are like people really want to do, but can we have a bin for these, year round, or should we just increase some of the like Recycle East Lansing events where, we already do some of those things, and maybe make it more frequent so that people can have more opportunities to access those hard to recycle items. Another thing that we hopefully can get into relatively soon is to investigate and potentially adopt zoning provisions for multifamily housing recycling. I know that this commission has looked into that into the past, and some of the limitations were kind of that, we don't really have the providers to do that. But now with the MTerra kind of being in the region and them expressing interest in potentially doing multifamily housing, that might be a easier route to go down now that we have the could potentially have the providers. And then lastly is just looking into potential pilot programs or other opportunities to explore making composting more of a service in the city. But yeah, so I think that's it. I tried to go fast so I wouldn't take up too much time, but hopefully I didn't go too fast where it didn't make any sense. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, please let me know. But like I said, we're going to continue to move forward with this and hopefully continue to use this information in the commission so that we can make some of these ideas into reality, which is kind of the ultimate goal of this whole project.
Very nice. Thank you, Jessica. I appreciate you taking the time to present that to us. It was really good information. I was looking forward to it, and I'm pleased by kind of what I see coming out of the whole process. Kathy, do we want to just push forward with the agenda as we don't have a ton of time, or can we have some discussion on this, do you think? Her camera is off and she's muted, so I'm not sure what she's up to.
Are we limited to an hour like last week, or is this?
No, we're not limited. That was just a special meeting. Sorry about that. I'm trying to solve a technical issue with a caller who is trying to reach us with comments, and our ID is not working. So I had Emily on the line. I'm trying to get that solved, but
gotcha.
She's working on it right now. So we may take communication from citizens at some point.
Absolutely.
Okay, because we definitely want to be able to accept people's calls, and hopefully we have a solution here shortly.
Great.
So I'm sorry, I missed the very first part of the question, but I did not miss Jessica's great presentation. And I just also wanted to say how great it was to work with her. She brings such great ideas and thoughtful ideas and real world kind of solutions to everything, which has been really fun and really exciting. And I think it's given us some really nice paths forward. So some of it is actually going to happen very quickly. We have some signage that'll come out at the drop-off site in the next couple of weeks that I think will be really helpful for folks. So just a lot of good things happening there.
Nice. Yeah, my question was, do we have time for discussion, or do we want to push forward with the agenda? Because I'm assuming there's probably some questions from folks. I have a few.
So I think that this commission has not had a lot of opportunity to spend time together over the last year. And I hate to cut off questions when you have them, especially in the moment, because once we move on to some other subjects, I think that you may have some, you might forget some of the things that you were thinking about at the time. And I think that the questions and the discussions that gets generated in this group often results in some decision making down the road, or some some great ideas. So I would say if everybody's up for it, I would go on with the discussion, and we will manage our agenda as we go through the night.
Great, thanks. That's what I was thinking as well. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't derailing your plans for us. So yeah, I think we should open up if folks have questions. I think as long as we can not talk over each other, we can just leave it open and not have to raise hands or do any of that kind of stuff. So anyone have questions or thoughts or concerns? Anne, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I had a question. I was just curious if in your exploration, we've considered possibly doing an organics management study. I know West Michigan has done them, or done one, so is Ann Arbor region. So has that come up as an opportunity to find more information specific to organics?
Yeah, so kind of our idea to include organics was something that was kind of like a last minute thing to see, like, all right, are citizens interested in this? And so we kind of just threw, like, you know, a couple questions in at the end. And so I think with that, we haven't really explored, well, at least I haven't personally explored any, I guess, more in-depth opportunities to further kind of explore an organics study specifically. That might be something that Kathy has looked a little bit more into, but I think that that would definitely be a good route to go on if we're serious about considering organics, because there are a lot of other things that, you know, that we didn't necessarily ask in the survey, but are very important factors to consider. And so I think that if that is a option that we think is worth exploring, that we should definitely do something about that, because I think it's worth doing.
Yeah. There was a conversation a while back with Kathy and Lori Welch with Lansing, myself, as part of MSU, to potentially work on a regional organics management. And it just kind of, you know, priorities came in place, but I still think there's an opportunity. And there was some interest potentially for some technical assistant grant funding to help with that from if it can be tied to regional economic development, and there's some opportunities there, but it just takes time for somebody to do that, but there's definitely interest.
Yes, and I heard that Kathy shared with me that there, I think she said it was a regional effort, but there is something, it's called like the Foods, Liquids, and Organic Waste Systems Innovation Challenge Track. And she talked about this as potentially something that the city was looking into exploring. I put it in the chat if people want to look at that. And so that is one avenue I think they were looking at. And I think this is some sort of funding to do something, but yeah, so I think there are definitely regional interests, and I think that that's super important. And I think obviously with that whole what's it called, the thing that you and Cliff are talking about tonight, the CASP, I think it was called. I think that's another important thing to do, you know, as another regional cooperation effort.
Definitely.
All right, Jessica, if no one else is jumping in, I'm going to harass you with a couple questions.
Please.
One was, Kathy, you got something?
Yeah, I do.
You have the caller?
So the glitch that we have going on in our meeting is preventing us from having an open meeting.
Okay.
And we cannot do that.
Yep.
And it's not a fixable glitch.
Okay.
So there was when the Zoom setup happened, somehow we required a passcode, which we can't require. And that would have been me. So I set up the Zoom meeting, and I must have accidentally, I mean, I know we can't require a passcode. So I clearly accidentally hit something in the setup of the meeting that none of us caught and none of us realized. So because this is required to be an open meeting and we are not going to violate an Open Meetings Act, we're going to have to stop our meeting, unfortunately. We will reschedule. So if everybody would just send me an individual email, not to the group, but let me know if you are interested in scheduling like a week from now or 2 weeks from now and trying to redo this meeting, or if you want to wait until April. I know everybody's schedules are different and you may not be able to do that, but let's do that. But we definitely have to stop our meeting, unfortunately. I am so sorry, you guys, but I was on the phone with Emily and we have no way to correct it because we have to have so much notification, and the code that we had in there looked like the proper code for someone to call in, but then when they were trying to call in, they couldn't. So the fact that we know that now, we're going to go ahead and stop the meeting. I wish you all well. And
Thanks, Kathy.
we'll be talking offline about rescheduling a meeting, okay?
Okay, we'll read you. Jessica just had a practice run, kind of. Then is what you're thinking.
I like it.
All right.
We want it to be,
That's
we
fine
want
with
the
me.
public. We want the public to see it. It's such good
Definitely,
stuff.
definitely.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Great.
All right.
No
Thank
problem.
you, everybody.
Thank you,
I'm so
Kathy.
sorry. Thank
Don't worry
you.
about it. It's easy to do. Probably just a box that was checked or not checked. So don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I appreciate
right.
you catching us, and we didn't spend like 4 hours doing this at least. So you know,
Yeah.
that's good.
Thank
All right.
you, guys.
Please,
Have a
everyone, send Kathy an email, and then we'll get something rescheduled. Thanks all.